As John has mentioned, this is a week in the life of Christ, of triumph to tragedy, and then back to glorious triumph. But for this morning, I'm going to focus on the triumph and the tragedy of the week. Now, we know that Jesus enters into Jerusalem, and there's some classic art up there. People are so excited. Now, they are so excited. Frank, you have a nice suit jacket on there today, don't you? Okay, your jacket is really nice. It's styling. If I were to be walking out in the dirt roads, how motivated would you be to throw that coat down so I could walk on it? Okay, yeah, not very. Okay, depends on who's paying the cleaning bills. Now, we also have to recall that this is an agrarian society, kind of like the wild, wild west. And when you walked animals, you didn't clean up after them. There was nobody with little brooms to sweep up the poo and the other excretory elements. It's my alliteration for the day, just so you know. And so the idea here is they're throwing down their cloaks, they're throwing down things so that the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, his donkey, does not have to step on poo. They're so excited, and this is incredible. This is great. Nothing has been better. And they're hoping that Jesus is the Messiah who will come and take care of Rome and get Rome out of the picture so that the Davidic kingdom can come back into being again. So some various things go on. Hosanna. And have you ever prayed and you just pray Hosanna, which means save? There are times that's all I can pray, is Hosanna. So Monday through Wednesday, now Jesus cleansing the temple. I do believe this is the second time he did this. Some people, skeptics, as they're writing on this, they say, well, John got it wrong. They would say John got it wrong because he has it set way early in the ministry of Jesus. Well, we know that people are hard-hearted and that they don't stop doing things. So I would imagine that Jesus cleans out the temple one year, and the next year, hey, they're back again because you've got all these people, they want to pay to rent their space. And of course, the religious leaders, they take a cut. Of course, some of it goes to the temple. It's just a huge economic thing. And so Jesus goes here again, and he starts throwing stuff all over the place. It's like he's having a proper temper tantrum. And he says, you have made my Father's house into a den of thieves and robbers. How dare you do this to my Father's house? He does not use the generic concept, you've turned our Father's house. My Father's house. And so when he does this, he is making a messianic claim. He is saying, my Father, not in the generic sense. And so if he's claiming that Yahweh is his Father, well, then he is claiming deity. He heals people. Now, if you go to Isaiah chapter 35, it talks about Messiah healing the blind and the lame. So when Jesus is there in the temple courts healing the blind and the lame, he's doing messianic things, showing himself, I'm the Messiah. Then will the eyes of the blind be opened. Now, and then, of course, warm and fuzzy Jesus gives just some brutally harsh teachings. We've gone over these before, but the religious leaders, the people with power, the teachers of the law and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat, so you must obey them and do everything they tell you, but do not do what they do, for they do not practice what they preach. They tie up heavy loads and put them on men's shoulders, but they themselves are not willing to lift a finger to move them. Everything they do is for men to see. They make their phylacteries wide and their tassels on their garments long. They love the place of honor at banquets and the most important seats in the synagogue. They love to be greeted in the marketplace and to have men call them Rabbi. But you are not to be called Rabbi, for you have one master, and you are all brothers. Do not call anyone on earth Father. It doesn't mean like don't call him Dad, okay? But don't call them Father in a priestly sense, I believe. For you have one Father, and he is in heaven. You are not to be called teacher if you have one teacher, the Christ. The greatest among you will be your servant. Well, that's backwards. For whoever exalts himself will be humble. Whoever humbles himself will be exalted. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites. Listen to this. You shut the kingdom of heaven in men's faces. You yourselves do not enter, nor will you let those enter who are trying to. So he's telling them, the teachers of the law and the Pharisees, the religious elite, y'all going to hell. You know that, right? You're not making the cut. Bunch of hypocrites that you are. Blind guides, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites. You give a tenth of your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but you have neglected the more important matters of the law. Okay. This is what Jesus is doing. Now, if you are part of the religious elite, and you have come to the realization, especially after the resurrection of Lazarus, that Jesus needs to die. Because if Jesus keeps on going like this, everybody's going to follow him. And if everybody follows Jesus, then Rome is going to come in, and it's all over for us. You know, we're just going to be completely destroyed. And then there's dear Caiaphas. Don't you know that it is better for one man to die than the nation to perish? Wink, wink. So we need to take Jesus out. And so Jesus, knowing that these wonderful, righteous people are plotting this, he just turns up the heat. He says more messianic things. He confronts them in their gross hypocrisy. Thursday, he tends to isolate himself with his disciples to prepare for the crucifixion. Now, at this point, the leaders have had enough. They're done. Jesus is a threat to Israel's survival under Rome. Jesus is a threat to their control and their prestige. Therefore, they are jealous. And even worse, he claims to be the Messiah. How dare he claim to be the one that we've been waiting for centuries? How dare he? Kind of doesn't make sense. He's claiming to be the one that they've been waiting for. And they say, oh, it can't be him. It's not what we expect. And then, of course, we know that by Thursday, Friday, we have the whole thing of the agony of the Christ. They call it the Passion of the Christ. I like to call it the agony of the Christ as they take Jesus. I mean, okay, I've got the little chin whiskers here, and was with the grandkids the other day, and AJ gets a fistful of beard, and he just starts pulling on that thing. Yeah, I follow him when he does that. It hurts, but part of what they did to Jesus was they grabbed his beard. They pulled out chunks. That really hurts. It hurts more than having your hair pulled out. It's just something about the facial hair. It really hurts. And they're doing all these things to Jesus. And the whole time, I believe all he has to do is think the thought. Angels. And they're there, and he could have called 10,000 angels to come in. He only needed one. But he could have called 10,000 angels to come in and to wipe all of them out. And to say he's had enough. But instead, he willingly goes to the cross for us. Now, the Jewish leaders had taken Jesus initially to Annas, and then they take him to Caiaphas. And Caiaphas does some more interviewing. Jesus gets slapped around a little bit. So they take him from Caiaphas to the palace of the Roman governor. By now it was early morning, and to avoid ceremonial uncleanness, they did not enter the palace because they wanted to be able to eat the Passover. They had been at this all night. Did you know that within the Jewish legal system, you could never have a trial at night? And you can't have a trial at night because, well, you can get away with things in the middle of the night because everybody's sleeping. So in addition to that, there were many other legal rules that were broken. Okay? It was a sham. Now, what these guys are doing, fascinating. They want to be ceremonially clean so they can do all the Passover stuff. Because it lasts a whole week, all these activities. They want to be ceremonially clean while they are breaking laws of legal stuff. They are coveting Jesus' place. They are jealous of him. They're coveting. They are showing their internal uncleanness, but they want to remain ceremonially unclean, so they don't want to get too close to Gentiles. It was also sometimes rumored that there would be young babies like buried underneath the floors of Gentile places, like some kind of blessing thing. So especially if they didn't want to go, they might be walking on a grave. This is crazy. Now, as you study Jesus' quote trial, they get person after person to give false testimony, and you know that they were bribed to do this. It's not explicit in the text, but it's implicit. They were bribed. So, hey, we need somebody to say that Jesus blasphemed Moses. Throw you a few bucks. You do this. They were bribing. They bribed Judas, okay, to give false testimony. They were lying, but yet they wanted to remain ceremonially clean. Then they're committing murder by proxy. And I believe that that's what it is. If, let's say that I want to kill Scott. I don't, okay? But obviously I am not in a position to kill Scott because Scott's a Bubba. So I could hire somebody else to take Scott out, somebody who's bigger than Scott. And what's that? Good luck. All right. How much am I paying? Okay. Anyway, all right. And so if I were to have Scott taken out in such a way, would I not be a murderer? Absolutely. So, yeah, conspiracy. So what the leadership is doing is they are committing murder by proxy. We want him killed. Well, if we kill him, we might get in trouble. Oh, let's have Rome do it. Everybody hates Rome anyway, so what's one more person that Rome kills? So Pilate came out to them and asked, this is in Pilate's BC time, before coffee. Okay, this is like early in the morning. When we saw in Sunday school, we saw the one account. It's like Pilate had probably been partying all night long, and he gets a knock on the door, a pounding on the door. It's like, what is going on? Oh, great, the Jewish leaders are here again. What do they want? So he's probably annoyed at this. I don't know if he wore pajamas or not, but he might have still had those on. So Pilate came out to them and asked, "What charges are you bringing against this man?" "If he were not a criminal," they replied, "we would not have handed him over to you. Trust us, he's guilty." Guilty of what? They know that there is nothing to their charges. They know it's just all a story they've made up, an accusation. And one of the other accounts talks about Pilate knew it was out of jealousy that they handed Jesus over to him. So Pilate says he doesn't want to deal with this. "Take him yourselves and judge him by your own law." Why are you bothering me? "But we have no right to execute anyone," they object. Now this is silly. Okay? Remember the woman caught in adultery? Okay? I'm sorry, stoning someone to death out in the street is executing them. They could do this and Rome really wouldn't care. What's one more dead Jewish person? But we have no right to execute anyone. Technically true, but not really. This took place to fulfill what Jesus had said about the kind of death he was going to die. Hugonian thinking is this. I doubt that Pilate really cared about any of this stuff. I think he was just annoyed. Pilate was known as a pretty vicious man. He could say to someone, I'm not a Roman citizen, of course, but say to someone, "Hey, see that guy? Yeah, crucify him. Yeah, just crucify him." And it would happen. He was that kind of a ruler. Who wants to deal with this kind of foolishness first thing in the morning? Now, in all of this, God is completely sovereign. Pilate is not. Herod is not. Indeed, Caesar is not sovereign. So, John chapter 12. Jesus answered the disciples, "The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Truly, truly, I say to you, unless a grain of wheat..." No, I'm sorry, he's saying this to, I believe, the people. "Unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains alone. If it dies, it bears much fruit." Now, this is not a really blunt statement, but it's a hint at the idea. But here in Luke, and taking the 12, he said to them, "See, we are going up to Jerusalem, and everything that is written about the Son of Man by the prophets will be accomplished. For he will be delivered over to the Gentiles and will be mocked and shamefully treated and spit upon. After flogging him, they will kill him, and on the third day he will rise." But they understood none of these things. This saying was hidden from them, and they did not grasp what was said. So just, their minds are clouded. They don't get it. Psalm 22. Parts of the psalm obviously reference Christ. "But I am a worm and not a man, scorned and despised by mankind, despised by the people. All who see me mock me. They make mouths at me. They wag their heads. They're saying nasty things. He trusts in the Lord. Let him deliver him. Let him rescue him, for he delights in him. This is what they said to him. Many bulls encompass me. Strong bulls of Bashan surround me. They open wide their mouths at me like a ravening and a roaring lion. I am poured out like water. All my bones are out of joint, describing crucifixion. With the shoulders would be knocked out of joint. My heart is like wax, is melted within my breast. My strength is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue sticks to my jaw, and you have laid me in the dust of death. Prophecies. Dogs encompass me. The company of evildoers encircles me. They have pierced my hands and feet. I count all my bones. They stare and gloat over me. They divide my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots. Isaiah 53, which we had earlier in the service. Who has believed our message, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? He grew up before him like a tender shoot and like a root out of dry ground. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and familiar with suffering. Like one from whom men hide their faces, he was despised and we esteemed him not. Surely he took up our infirmities and carried our sorrows, yet we considered him stricken by God, smitten by him and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was upon him, and by his wounds we are healed. We all like sheep have gone astray. Each of us has turned to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth. By oppression and judgment he was taken away, and who can speak of his descendants? For he was cut off from the land of the living. For the transgression of my people he was stricken. He was assigned a grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death. Though he had done no violence, no deceit was found in his mouth. Yet it was the Lord's will to crush him and to cause him to suffer. And though the Lord makes him a guilt offering, he will see his offspring and prolong his days. And the will of the Lord will prosper in his hand. After the suffering of his soul, he will see the light and be satisfied. Okay? It's obvious what's going on here. But it's so easy for people to neglect. An innocent person did nothing wrong. So, Pilate, he goes back in the palace, summons Jesus and asks him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" There are many ways to kind of translate the response here. But the NIV has it this way: is that your own idea, or did others talk to you about me? Other translations will say, "Hey, you said it." Okay, so notice that Jesus is not saying, "I'm the king of the Jews." He's simply saying, "Yep, that's what you've said." Then Pilate responds, "Am I a Jew?" Pilate replied, "Your own people and chief priests handed you over to me. What is it you have done?" Who is controlling this? In this situation, Jesus is in control. Okay? Submitting to evil Pilate. Pilate finds the charges to be very unclear. He doesn't understand them, doesn't understand why Jesus should be condemned to death by him or anybody else. He doesn't get it. Now, the synoptics give more, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, they give more information on this. John is simply pointing out what is relevant to his showing that Jesus is indeed the Christ. He is indeed the Messiah. So there's more details on this, but John chooses not to include them. Then Jesus says something incredible. He says, "My kingdom is not of this world. If it were, my servants would fight to prevent my arrest by the Jewish leaders. But now my kingdom is from another place." Jesus is no threat to Rome. No threat at all. If he wanted to lead an army and different Jewish people, carrying pitchforks and things like that, but that's not what he was here for. Now, I think that when Jesus is saying, "my servants," I don't think he's talking about his disciples. I think Jesus understands that if I were an angel watching this, you'd have to be holding me back. It's like, this is the Lamb of God. This is Jesus. This is the Messiah. And an angelic restraint. So I think, again, this is an angelic reference. If my kingdom were this world, this would be finished right now real fast. "You are a king then," said Pilate. Jesus answered, "You say I'm a king. In fact, the reason I was born and came into the world is to testify to the truth. Everyone on the side of truth listens to me. This is a strange response. You are a king. Well, yeah, but that's what you say. In fact, I was born to testify to truth. I think Pilate here is really, really confused. He responds, well, what is truth? Now, this can be a deeply, deeply philosophical question. I don't know if Pilate was being philosophical. I think he's just really frustrated. Okay, the chief priests, the Pharisees, they come in and they say, this, terrible. He should be killed for this. And Pilate's like, what? I just talked to the guy. What's the real story here? What is truth in this situation? Jesus has said, you said I'm a king, but I'm not the kind of king that you're thinking of. I am no threat to Rome militarily. Of course, we know that Christianity kind of had a huge place in the empire, and the empire became a great roosting place for the faith. The truth. This is something that we must face, but often we don't want to. Now, Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. People would say, well, no, he's not. Well, why do you say that? Well, he can't be true. Why can't he be true? The reason that they can't accept that he's true is they don't like the corollaries that go along with, remember geometry? Okay, and corollaries. You have this one truth and this one truth. There are other sub-truths that go along with this truth. For example, if Jesus is the Messiah, okay, and if this is who he is, if he died for my sins, what does that say about me? He says, I deserve punishment. I mean, if he died my death, I deserve to die. If I'm such a sinner that Jesus had to die for me, that's not saying very nice, warm, fuzzy things about me. I mean, we're supposed to love ourselves. I don't love me. I recognize and I act upon Christ's love for me. I don't need to love myself. Pilate's question here is rhetorical. He has no intent in finding out the truth. He only wants to quell the mob. Now, what happens if there's a riot? You might get some soldiers hurt. What'd you say, Scott? Yeah. I mean, okay, Pilate has got to manage this. If there's a riot, Rome loses money. Now, also, Rome likes to be in absolute control and authority. So if there's a ruckus, Pilate, how did you let this happen? How incompetent can you be that you let this event happen? Pilate, maybe we need to call you back to Rome. I think Pilate was pretty happy where he was, actually. So with this, Pilate goes out again to the Jews gathered there and said, I find no basis for a charge against him. He tries to give them an out. He understands what they're trying to do, and he's trying to find some way to get them to back off. But it is your custom for me to release one prisoner at the time of the Passover. Do you want me to release the King of the Jews? And he's hoping they're going to say, yes. But they shouted back, not him, and give us Barabbas. Now Barabbas had taken part in an uprising. Barabbas is known as a very violent person. If you would meet him in broad daylight on a crowded street in the middle of a city, you would be afraid of him. He was a notorious scoundrel. Again, a very, very violent man. Pilate says, there is nothing to your charges. No, this is crazy. Tries to give them a way out, and he offers them, he doesn't offer them, he offers them Jesus, and the crowd tries to find the biggest scum of the earth that they can, which means that they value Jesus. They evaluate him on a lower level than they even evaluate Barabbas. I mean, they hate Jesus with everything that's within them. Then Pilate took Jesus and had him flogged. Okay, so Jesus is innocent. I find no basis for a charge against him. Flog him. Now, and again, we recall what flogging was. It was terrible. They would tie you to a post, arms are up, which exposes the ribs in the back, and they would use a cat of nine tails with little nice pieces of bone or metal or other sharp things in there, and they would hit you with it, let it drape across, and then quickly yank it back. And this would, terrible, terrible. And they did this to Jesus. He was a bloody, bloody mess. Then they clothed him in a purple robe. went up to him again and again, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" And they slapped him in the face. Have you ever seen that? They have like face slapping competitions now. Have you seen any of those? Steve, have you seen those? Incredible. They put one person on this side of the table, another person on the other side, and I would want to go first. And they have to use an open hand, and they slap as hard as they can. Some of the people, they get knocked unconscious by this. That's the kind of slapping that Jesus would have received. And we know that they jammed a crown of thorns on his head. And there's discussion about how long the thorns were. There were some thorns that would be like maybe this long. And you jam those onto somebody, it's going to cut. But it would almost look like a crown, a little diadem thing, over your head with all the thorns sticking up. We don't know exactly how long the thorns were, but they knew it was very effective in adding the whole torture that Jesus was going through. There are no valid charges. They're false, they're contrived, they're made up by a bunch of people who are concerned about ceremonial uncleanness. Once more, let's see. Once more Pilate came out to the Jews and gathered. "Look, I'm bringing him out to you to let you know I find no basis for a charge against him. I'm bringing him out to you to let him know he's innocent." When Jesus came out wearing a crown of thorns and the purple robe, this was meant to show extreme humiliation, that maybe the mob would say, "Oh yeah, Rome has beat him pretty bad. Yeah, we'll just be good with that. We'll let this go." Pilate said to them, "Here is the man." Their charges had nothing to do with Roman law. Jesus had been pummeled for no reason, has been thoroughly humiliated. Pilate hopes that this will calm down the mob. As soon as the chief priests and their officials saw him, they shouted, "Crucify! Crucify!" But Pilate answered, "You take him and crucify him. He doesn't want to have anything to do with this. As for me, I find no basis for a charge against him." The Jewish leaders insisted, "We have a law, and according to that law, he must die because he claimed to be the Son of God." So notice, anytime Jesus claimed to be the Son of God, they counted that as blasphemy. Okay? So again, very clearly, Jesus revealed himself as being the Son of God. Now, the title Son of God was taken at one point by Caesar Augustus. "I am the Son of God." What a humble man he was. Now, the leaders, by saying this, might have been alluding to what Caesar Augustus had done. So if here Jesus is claiming to be the Son of God, maybe he's claiming to be on the same level as a Caesar of all things. Now, if you claim to be on the same level of Caesar, well, you've got a cross coming really, really fast. This almost saying. This is not what's going on. I did not phrase that well. I'm sorry. They're hinting that by Jewish law he deserves to die, maybe by Roman law too. When Pilate heard this, he was even more afraid, and he went back inside the palace. "Where do you come from?" he asked Jesus. But Jesus gave him no answer. "Do you refuse to speak to me?" Pilate said. "Don't you realize that I have the power to either free you or to crucify you?" Jesus answered, "You would have no power over me if it were not given you from above. Therefore, the one who handed me over to you is guilty of a greater sin." Jesus answers as if he were indeed the Son of God, the all-powerful King of kings and Lord of lords, saying, "Pilate, don't you understand that you're nothing? Okay? And you would have no power over me unless I allowed this?" The person who handed over, this is probably a reference to Caiaphas, the high priest who was actually in charge of this whole process of handing Jesus over. From then on, Pilate tried to set Jesus free, but the Jewish leaders kept shouting. Now remember, they had been up all night with this. They were exhausted, but they keep shouting, "If you let this man go, you are no friend of Caesar. Anyone who claims to be a king opposes Caesar." When Pilate heard this, he brought Jesus out and sat down in the judge's seat at a place known as the stone pavement, which in Aramaic is called Gabbatha. It was the day of preparation of the Passover. It was about noon. We know from other accounts that at this point Pilate washed his hands of all this. "I have nothing to do with this. This is upon you." And recall that the leaders who were there said, "Let his blood be upon us and upon our progeny." Pilate said, "Here is your king." They shouted, take him away, crucify him." Shall I crucify your king? Pilate asked. We have no king but Caesar, the chief priest answered. What a horrible, horrible statement. Remember back when Israel first wanted a king, and Samuel was kind of upset about this. What did God say to Samuel? It's not you they've rejected as king, but it's me. Now, their rejection of Jesus as king also attributes to his deity, because they're rejecting, again, the king. They're rejecting the Lord. They say, we have no king but Caesar. They hated Caesar. They hated Rome. But they are so desperate. And this is, their statement here is blasphemy. So finally, Pilate, okay, go ahead, crucify him. And they do. Now, Jesus walks in, okay, to Jerusalem. And everybody is so excited. They're pumped up. This is great. This is the King of Kings. Yeah, he is going to deliver. Everybody is excited. They're all emotional. But by the end of the week, there's no emotion left about this. The only emotion there is to have him killed. And I think that most of the folks who were along the way cheering him as the son of David, I don't think they were privy to this thing that the leaders had pulled off. Agape versus phileo. Phileo would be like the brotherly kingship. Hey, double tap. Guys hug that way. Women hug differently. But if we hug a guy, he's just really quick. It's like, ooh, no cooties here. But it's a friendship. There can be some emotional tie-in with this. Agape is a decision that says, I will love you. I don't care what you do. I'm going to love you. And I don't need to be your friend to love you. Okay, it's that really strong kind of a thing. So what the people had was phileo for Jesus. They were excited. Oh, this is so cool. This is so great. It's exciting. Everybody's here, jumping up and down, throwing our coats in the poo. This is great. But what the people needed to achieve was agape. To say, I am committed to God no matter what. I am committed to Christ, Messiah, no matter what. Now, Jesus is indeed king, but not like the ones we know. He's a king of hearts. It's a kingdom of people as we seek to know him. His kingdom is established in us. It's not geographical, but rather it is spiritual, it is relational to him. This is what the Jews couldn't get. They were so afraid of a Messiah military guy that they forgot all about the relationship. Everything that they did for God was simply rule upon rule, do upon do this, do that, and you're okay. Doesn't work. Finally, choosing Barabbas. They had the opportunity to say, hey, wow, we're really being totally bogus here. We need to choose Jesus. We need to, yes, he's our king. Yes, we need to choose him. But instead they chose Barabbas. Now, I think the choosing of Barabbas typifies any time we choose something other than Christ. Temptation comes along, and we choose that rather than Christ. We're choosing Barabbas. We're choosing what is evil. We're choosing what is destructive. We're choosing what is violence against our hearts, against our souls, against our relationship with God. But Barabbas can be more attractive than surrender. And whenever we choose, we must choose Christ and never choose Barabbas. Because Barabbas is only destructive. We choose Christ. He is constructive to bless our hearts, to bless our lives. So we have a great Lord and Savior to whom we are committed, not with our emotions, but with our wills, with our heart, our soul, our mind, our strength, with everything. And we cannot turn back. And remember, Barabbas pops up everywhere. We must always turn to Christ.